Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast, a show that provides insight and tools to build the life and homestead of your dreams. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. Today is Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. This is episode number 281 of the show, and the title of today's show is going to be How to Homestead. So yesterday we asked ourselves in episode number 280, what is a homestead? And after everything that we led into, or everything that we discussed yesterday, what a beautiful sunrise as I head down the driveway this morning. It is 7:17 a.m. here in Medina, Ohio, and it is just one of those cotton candy sunrise mornings. Stunning. Absolutely gorgeous. Anyways, in the episode, What is a Homestead? There were three core takeaways that I had. And that was relationships and family, land, and cultivation. And a combination, a healthy combination of those three things leads to self-sufficiency. And if anything, a homestead is a mindset, a mentality. And then that leads to the next question of, well, how do you do it? Because the word, the way in which it's used, it's changed over the years, and that's common with language. So we've got singles and couples in apartments, kind of living a homestead-oriented life. All right. So if anyone can be a homesteader, how do you exactly go about doing it? Well, in this episode today, titled How to Homestead, all I can really do to cover this is to share my experience thus far with doing so. So for fodder for discussion and to follow along and to go down your own wormholes, what I did for this morning's episode was utilizing my search engine of choice, pre-search. I simply chose 3 articles, a few of the first that came up in the search using with the simple search, How to Homestead. And the 3 articles were How to Start a Homestead, 9 must-read tips for new homesteaders, Homesteading for Beginners, your Homestead Quick Start Guide, and 7 ways to start a homestead without being overwhelmed. So let's see if I can pull all these up here and reference something. All right. So how to start a homestead. This is a blog post by Homestead and Chill. Oops, let me get my truck out of 4-wheel drive before we hit the road. All right, Homestead and Chill, and I'm not going to read these whole articles. I'm just going to read a paragraph or two, see what they have to say, and then take it from there. So Homestead and Chill, how to start a homestead. 9 must-read tips for new homesteaders. All right. Do you dream of a homegrown, home-cooked meal? A more simple, healthy, and sustainable lifestyle? A deeply gratifying connection to your property, plants, and animals? If so, sounds like homesteading is right up your alley. But how do I start a homestead, you ask? Okay. The short and sweet answer is just start. The longer, but still relatively vague answer is the steps you take to start a homestead will depend on your goals and what you can do within your means. By your means, I am referring to each person's unique property, budget, free time, skills, climate, town regulations, availability of local resources, and so on. Okay, so there's a lot of variables in how you homestead. And let's take a look at what this next article has got. Homesteading for beginners, your quick start guide. If you've come to the decision that you want to transition your life and lifestyle to a homestead, I would like to first of all congratulate you. You have taken the first step towards an amazingly rewarding life for yourself and your family, and yet another toward the fruitful and healthful practice of raising your own food and becoming more self-sufficient. All right, you're seeing some themes here, and I'll link to these articles in the show notes, and you can go ahead and read them more because they've got links embedded in their own articles to elsewhere. And if homesteading is your thing, I presume it is, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this show. While this isn't homestead centric, it's gonna start going that way because I realized this morning that a focus on my life and the homestead and everything outside of my career, all of those 6 other aspects of life, is what brings me joy and some peace when I cannot find it in that 7th remaining aspect of life. And for those of you who aren't really sure what I'm talking about with these 7 aspects of life, I will link to the 2022 Goal Setting Workbook, applicable at any point in the year 2022 or anywhere else for that matter. Don't use it as an excuse to not look at this because it's already February of 2022 or wherever in the future. Take advantage of this resource. Click that link, and if for some reason that link has expired at the time that you do so, reach out to me on Telegram, t.me/allaroundgrowth or allaroundgrowth@gmail.com, and I will gladly provide you with a PDF copy of it so you don't even have to explore any potential issues with the links and such. All right, so moving on, let's take a look at this 3rd and final article called 7 Ways to Start a Homestead Without Being Overwhelmed. Let's see what we've got on that. Does it seem overwhelming to start a homestead from scratch? This guide will help you bust through doubt and discomfort to achieve your dreams. All right, sounds pretty appealing. Years ago, when I quit my job as a high school teacher, I fell in love with growing my own food. You could say that it was my gateway drug to homesteading. I quickly discovered that there was a whole world just beyond growing food. Along my journey to start a homestead, I've discovered all kinds of ways to become more self-sufficient. For example, I could use what I was growing for fresh eating, preserving for winter, and making medicinal and personal care products. Okay, guys, that's it. The year is 2022. I am a middle-aged man. I'm 44. I will be turning 45 later this year. This journey for me, this path towards what this show is all about, building the life and homestead of my dreams, is an idea that has been brewing for 15 years. All right? And that is the amount of time that my parents have owned this land and been living in rentals, basically. Well, at least for 14 years. And until we built out here 4 years ago. So that was 1 decade of living in rental houses and making some sacrifices in order to make the dreams happen. And because things didn't work out as originally intended when the property was bought, leading up into the housing market crash of 2008, I decided to go my own way, leading and living a life chasing the corporate dream, actually encouraging my parents to sell this property because while at one point prior to the corporate life, I had embraced all of these ideas regarding homesteading and had actually begun working as an apprentice on an organic farm, only to chase someone else's dreams, fed by the inception of social media, seeing what everyone was doing and keeping up with the Joneses in my own way, only to experience burnout, poor health, and to return back home to help my parents with the homestead that they were building. They weren't living there at the time, but they were making things for market. They were growing certain things. I had flown home a couple times to help put plants in the ground to get things established so that we could at the very least maintain the agricultural tax use valuation of the land, because we were not having it actively farmed anymore. So that was a long time ago. Past 7 years, what's been the story? Been working at a local tree farm, doing a delicate balancing act of transitioning from role to role and trying to figure out how I fit in to this company, or even if I do for the long run. And one of the ideas that I had leading up into this episode was that I've realized that some of the challenges I have in life are when two primary things. I'm working with people or dealing with people, whether it's for work or volunteer activities or with the church or whatever. Deal with people who are unwilling to communicate or aren't very effective communicators, and basically it's an unwillingness to communicate, because if we're ineffective communicators and we are not putting forth the effort to learn new tools and skills to communicate more effectively and better with people, then we are doing ourselves a disservice, we're doing them a disservice, and oftentimes we do that because we're not forward thinking. We're only focused in solving the immediate problem in the here and now, and that idea is the antithesis of what it takes to engage in this homestead mentality. You have to be forward thinking. You have to think about the future, especially when there's animals in the picture. I don't feel like, and I won't feel like I've ever taken an approach to, big air quotes right now, actual homesteading until animals have entered the equation. And while I've danced with them in the past with some birds and helped other people with their animals, I've never actually taken on the responsibility of maintaining and managing animals myself. So in terms of where I'm at in the life cycle of a homesteader, I'm just a fledgling little chick, just a baby beginning, and that's okay. We're all at different stages, and you may be a homesteader and you may never keep animals, and that's okay. But we got to figure out what it means, get some insight into that with yesterday's episode, and then how do we do it today? Oh God, we haven't even really talked about that. But there's all sorts of ways to go about doing it. And again, it's all dependent on what your goals and objectives are. But at the end of the day, one of the most important and fundamental concepts to have success in this arena, homesteading, if that's what we want to do in life, is to set goals and approach all of this having a little standoff with the guy across the road here who's going first. But we got to get out of debt, guys, right? Like, if you're carrying debt and you've been in this cycle of doing so for longer than you've been maintaining a cycle of being out of debt, I'm going to encourage you to check out Financial Peace University, work the program, including the part in your budget about giving. Only then can we really experience success. And I was talking about this yesterday with my new partner, my new coworker, and I've included some content about that in an article that that was recently published that I wrote that I seemingly have failed to share on social media. So I'll see if I can link to that in the show notes as well. But guys, we can't make progress in life if we are floundering in debt and, living this lifestyle where that's been the cycle. We can't break the cycle of life and engage in a new cycle of homesteading unless we redevelop some patterns and habits in our life. And a lot of that starts with the management of our finances and the management of our debt. So if you're struggling with that, Financial Peace is going to be your friend. It's going to require some drastic change. And guys, the reality, in my humble opinion, is if you can't get out of debt and you can't work through the challenges and with it as laid out within the program of Financial Peace University, you're not fit to be a homesteader. And that's it. It all takes discipline and consistency. And if we can't do that within our own lives, within our own finances, we're sure as hell not going to be able to do that on a homestead, where we've got to take care of that and a whole lot more. Okay, well, that's it for today, guys. Happy hump day. It's Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in to the show today. Look forward to catching you tomorrow in another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast. This is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.